Hi, my name is Ray. I worked in the finance sector. I've been finding a helper, right, mainly to take care of my grandmother. Given that my mom have some health conditions, so she is unable to care for my grandmother just by herself. Because my grandmother had fall recently and require mobility aid, right, in order to move around the house, so we do need a caretaker to be able to look after her, especially when she wakes up at night to go to the toilet and all. So we do need a maid to help out with looking after my grandmother and do some basic chores in the household, such as cleaning the floors and the mopping of the floors and the toilets. So the process of finding an agency involves because of not being so familiar with the industry or so, there is a lot of through word of mouth. So of course, with some of my friends having certain positive experience with certain agencies, I took down their contact, and then I started sending them WhatsApp messages, which then they will usually reply with their service fee as well as the biodata of the maid. So from there, I do some interviews, and that's how I found my maid, my ex-maid, as well as the previous maid agency. So the cost of the agency that I decided to proceed ahead of was about $1,600, $1,007. That was the service fee agreed. However, it was shocking because when I was signing the agreement, the miscellaneous cost was another 1,004. On top of that, then there is also the maid loan. There is 6 months loans, which is the industry average. But I think what really took me aback was the 1,004 extra miscellaneous cost, which means the fees itself is actually doubled. So the maid is actually from Indonesia. So during the interview, she mentioned that she wanted to earn money for the kids and all. She does sound sincere, and when she came over, everything was fine for the first few days, right? And one thing that did flag out is that as the days goes by, so she's in her 30s, right? And as the days goes by, we do notice that her speed of working starts to slow down slower and slower. And the way that she cleans, she doesn't use strength at all, right? So she can be washing a toilet and all, but then it doesn't even look cleaned, right? Which she doesn't exert force when she wiped and things like that. So those are the things that start to show. And initially we thought it was too much task given to the maid. So we even come up with a timetable whereby because the main job for the maid was to take care of my grandmother. So we even come up with a schedule whereby she don't do more than 2 tasks in a day, 2 to 3 tasks maximum in a day, which means if you mop the floor today, right, then you don't have to clean the toilet, right? So that's what we came up with. But we noticed that even with reducing the the task required to do on a daily basis, we only notice that her speed goes down slower and slower, and the ability for her to do the work also get slower and slower. And one of the things I noticed is that because my it seems like I am the decision maker at the household. So the maid actually clean faster and clean better when I'm around, and when I'm not at home, right, and it's just my mom, she actually do it very slowly. And initially it didn't flag up to me as how it is, but as the time goes by, I checked the CCTV and all. That's when I noticed that what my mom said was true, because at first I thought my mom was exaggerating, right? So that is some of the experience that I have with the maid. So my mom told me that in terms of vacuuming, I stay in a 5-room HDB flat. So my mom told me that she takes at least 3 to 4 hours to vacuum and mop the house in the morning, and that doesn't include wiping the tables and all. It's just vacuum, using a vacuum cleaner, as well as using a mop to mop the floor. I thought that was a bit ridiculous until I see it firsthand in terms of how she do it. And then cleaning a toilet takes her about 2 hours, right? And even with the 2-3 tasks given to her, she can't complete the task. And even after we tried to have a conversation with her, right, and I stayed home for a few days, she will be able to complete the task, right, for the next 2 to 3 days. And once I go out of the house, she go back to square one. So it shows that it's not because she do not have the capability to complete the task, but there may be other intention that comes with it. I think the breaking point for me, because I always believe that perhaps people have a learning curve, right? So it took about 1 month to about 2 months before I hit the breaking point. And the breaking point came because my mom was losing a bit of her patience, and then my mom started correcting her and taking over the task. And I noticed that my mom started doing most of the household chore and not the maid. So that was quite a big breaking point, and she started talking back in terms of like certain tasks. Even though she's only being tasked to mop and vacuum the floor only, she did not do it, and then she insists she does it. But then the CCTV clearly shows that she did not do it. Right, that was one thing. And then when she was with my grandmother alone, right, she would use her handphone the whole day, right, and then not ignore my grandma's requests and all, which I think then that really breached the last straw for me, because the primary care is to look after my grandmother, and she's there using the phone, right? So we even tried asking for her phone and all. So she insists that she did not use her phone, right? And so when we asked, to sort of keep her phone and give her back at the end of the day, she got angry, and she actually talk back to us, and that wasn't a very pleasant experience, and it seems like she ruled the household. So I did escalate this issue to the agency, and they suggested they wanted to do a counseling for the maid. So I asked them, what does the counseling entails? They said they would just speak to the maid about to work better and things like that. But I asked them how would that make it better. So when I escalate up and all, it seems like counseling is their only method. And when I asked about the method they are going to use, they are not being very transparent on the method use. So I'm not too sure if they are going to use a fear tactic or whatsoever. So I told them unless they can tell me the exact methods that they use, I would not actually allow them to do that counseling, right, for the well-being of the maid, as well as having the right methods to do the right things. However, I did suspect that the agency did contact the maid behind my back, because the maid seems to be instructed to do certain things, and it doesn't. It seems out of character. So, for example, because the maid have a loan with me, we decided to at least try out for the 6 months before sending her back to Indonesia. So I did tell the agency that I am looking for a replacement, right, to ask them to send me a replacement. I think that was where the second horror starts, right, whereby in the contract it clearly says that there is 2 free replacement within 6 months. However, right, in a very, very fine print, it wrote that even though there's free replacement, it comes with a replacement fee, which was a bit puzzling, because the contract clearly put 2 free replacement, but then there's a small clause that say the replacement fee applies of $600, right? Which I thought, okay, I mean, if it's $600, I think it's a acceptable fee that for me to pay. And I asked them, what does it mean by free replacement? So they mentioned to me that if you pass the 6 months and you want to replace, you have to pay the full fee again, right? So I agreed and all, and then I started interviewing some of the maids and all. And when I wanted to confirm one of it, to my horror, the 600 replacement fee comes with miscellaneous costs as well, which is another $700. So that adds up to $1,000 just to replace a maid, which doesn't make sense, right? So I decided to carry on with the maid. I told the agency that I would just finish up the bond, send the maid back to Indonesia instead of sending back to the agency, and then actually hire a new maid after. So I think a mistake was me telling them my intention, because after that, the maid started to come up with certain tricks and tactics, which then she also asked to go back to the agency. So that was another episode whereby we noticed that on her off days, she actually, one of the days, she came back with a lot of Maggi noodles, right, which is not bought by us and all, and one of the days, right, suddenly she texted me, right, and this was very, very puzzling, because the maid do not have my phone number, right, and it puzzles me because even when I questioned her, she did not answer me in terms of who gave her my number. And she actually sent me a photo of expired Maggi noodle and said that my aunt and my mom forced her to eat expired Maggi noodles, which I know that's not the case, because I know my mom and my aunt always ask her to cook whatever is around in the house, right? Whatever she is fit her appetite and all, she can cook and she can eat, right? And so I know that my household, we don't really keep expired things, because just in case my grandmother eats it, and she will fall ill from there. And the brand of the Maggi mee is something that we do not buy. So I know she's probably brought it somewhere and she took a photograph. So when I pushed further and all, she actually ignored my message. And then few weeks later, she actually asked, I said that she's sick and she wants to go back to the agency. So there's a lot of continuous pursuit in terms of wanting to go back to the agency, which I thought was a bit puzzling and possibly being instructed, right? And when I said that, if you're sick and all, I'll bring you to the doctors, she refused to go to the doctor. So I had to actually force her to go to the doctors and take the medication. But she still asked to go back to the agency, right? So that was my experience in terms of how I felt that the agency worked behind my back. I think likely so, because after I actually sent the maid back and I sent the feedback in terms of why so there was still outstanding loans, right? So even with so whenever we send a maid back, we have to write a feedback through the MOM portal in terms of what happened and things like that. I noticed that they did not put my feedback back into the MOM portal, right? And then within a short span of less than a week or a week or so, right, they managed to find a replacement for this maid. And this maid is someone who is slow, someone who is sick, all right, seemingly sick, and she says she can't work anymore. And somehow they can find her a replacement, which was a bit shocking to me, right? And it felt like the agency just want to churn the agency fees, and that's why, even from the feedback I give in terms of why I terminated the maid, it was not reflected on the MM website as well. I actually made a call to ask MOM in terms of some of the things that have been done, but I did not actually make a report for this thing whereby they did not upload whatever I mentioned, because I think at the point I already found a new mail and life got busy. But I did make an inquiry to MOM with regards to can the agency, right, refuse to send the maid back to Indonesia, or if the maid wants to go back home. So I do have a recording in terms of talking to the maid and all, asking if the maid is sick, right, does the maid want to go back home, right? The maid actually did tell me eventually that she wants to go back home to Indonesia instead of staying with the agency, but refused to tell me why. But I noticed that the maid constantly checks her phone while talking to me, so it feels like as if she is being instructed. But then after going back to the agency, somehow, right, after counseling sessions by the agency, she wanted to continue working off her loans and all these things before she go back. So when I asked the MOM about it and all, they mentioned something along the lines that if the maid decides to stay, then it's the maid's right. If the maid wants to leave, then it's also her decision, but they can change her mind. So in this case, because the maid decided to stay, there is no case against the agency. Yeah, so I realized there's a lot of learning points for me. I think there's a lot of all this regulation and rules around it, whereby the agent and the agency does know how to play around with it, and that causes maybe in terms of diminishing the human rights of the maids, as well as causing the employers to be at the losing end. So when I sent the maid back to the agency, I was told that I have to pay for the lodging, which was about, if I'm not wrong, $15 or $30 a day, and my remaining loan will only be refunded back to me when she found a new employer. So at that point, I think she only have about 1 or 2 months left in her loan, and it was refunded to me after deducting all the dormitory fees, which was a bit shocking to me, because I told the agency, if the maid decides to go back to Indonesia, I can simply just buy an air ticket and send her back. It actually would cost me way less than sending her to the agency, and cost me additional money in the dormitory. And the agency actually told me this, is that if, let's say, I were to send the maid back to the agency and she decided to go back to Indonesia, they will send her back through Indonesia, right? And thereafter discharge me of any liabilities or so. But then, for some reason, when the maid goes back to the agency, they find her a replacement instead of sending her back. Yeah. I think first thing first, when it comes to maid agency or so, it's find out whether there's any miscellaneous fees out of that, and always keep a record in terms of your conversations and things that is being talked about, so that there's black or white available. And the other thing is also to take interviews with a pinch of salt, because what I do learn is that all the interviews and the stories seems very similar. For example, when you ask the maid why did the previous employment end, right? It is always either the employer did not give off days, the employer did not fit enough, or they gave birth to a kid, they need to go back to take care of their mom was sick. It was always about this. And why do they want to come back to work again? It's always about earning more money for the kid, earning more money for the parents and all. And it seems like it's scripted. So it's not really genuine, in my opinion. And so I think the best way, to be honest, to try out a maid is to actually try it out, right? However, with how the operations is like in the agency model, with the loans out there, with the fees out there, we don't have the liberty to try out, because every time you try out, it costs you a few $1,000s. So I think itself is for employers to really plan out there and to know your rights before going to an agency, because they have been around for very long, and you may find yourself at the losing end in this whole situation. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Yeah, thank you.